Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. Father Frank Pavone filling in for Jesse today, talking about the sacredness of life. Father Frank, I know this isn't even nice to hear, but I have to tell you, when I saw the October 7th attack on Israel and they showed these little kids being killed, you know what first came to my mind? The innocent babies that are being killed in abortion.
Me too.
Really? That was my first thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because, in our case, I mean, we're talking about abortion all the time, you and I and many others that are in ministry. And it's like we're always talking about it in terms of the beheading of babies,
yes.
The decapitation of babies.
Right.
And then when we see this horrific thing that took place with the decapitation of born babies,
yes,
we can't help but thinking that, hey, wait a minute, it would have been just as wrong to decapitate that same baby.
That's right.
When he or she was in the womb.
Exactly. So that's my question right now. I know that it's not pleasant to talk about what actually takes place to the baby, but I have been at clinics, I've been praying the rosary, and sometimes people get mad that I bring these images of aborted babies, and you can see the disemboweled babies. And I go, well, yeah, it's hard to see, but Father, I think there's merit to wake people up to see that this is actually taking place every day.
I'm glad you bring this up. Why don't let's really once and for all confront this head on with our friends that are watching.
Yeah.
And I say our friends, very often it is in our own circles.
Yes.
Catholic circles, pro-life circles. Before we address the general public and the pro-abortion people out there, let's talk in-house, in the family for a moment.
Good.
Why is it that people are getting upset? Whether you or I, will bring a sign like that or show a photo,
yeah.
or what's going on here? What's the source of the upsetment? When they get upset with you for doing that, do they give any kind of rational reason for the upsetment?
Yeah, they say that's not what. Sometimes I get that they put that away. That's not really what's going on here. They deny it. I've had that denial.
Well, in that case, I would just recommend a book called Abortion Practice by Warren Hearn. He's an abortionist in Boulder, Colorado. And in fact, you can just go to, you could go to that medical textbook, but I'm going to read you some quotes from that medical textbook.
Okay.
But what an abortion is, we have to start with that. What an abortion is not a matter of opinion.
Right.
It's not like your opinion about what abortion is or my opinion. We're not talking about the moral or philosophical, it's the taking of a human life, and life is of infinite value. We're not talking about that. We're talking about what is the procedure of abortion? How is it actually carried out? And would a picture like you or I show represent accurately what the abortion actually is? Well, we have. Just the day before we were taping this episode, I was in Michigan for their March for Life, and met up with my colleague in the pro-life leadership, Dr. Monica Miller, someone that
I know her well.
You know as well.
Absolutely.
And she and I have been involved in. She was carrying one of those signs that show the bodies of an aborted baby, and she and I have been involved in the burial of many of those babies over the years. And it's like we didn't make that up. We photographed the babies that were found in the dumpster. So people are, it's quite it's I would say it even goes to the point of being disrespectful of us.
Sure.
To just jump to that conclusion, that's not the way it really is. Yeah. How do you know that that's not the way it really is? Have you seen, what an abortion is? I mean, it's not, we didn't make up those photos. No. So that's one thing. And, but let me read a quote here. Sure. I mean, our audience is mature enough to realize that, this is going to be unpleasant stuff. But this textbook, Abortion Practice, right?
Yeah.
Here's what he says in one of the paragraphs in here. The procedure changes significantly at 21 weeks because the fetal tissues become much more cohesive and difficult to dismember. Oh. Wait, let's wait right there. What did you say, doctor?
Yeah.
Dismember? It's not a pro-life treatise here. This is the doctor who does abortion. Dismember. Then he goes on to say, the problem is accentuated by the fact that the fetal pelvis may be as much as 5 centimeters in width. The calvaria, the head, is no longer the principal problem. It can be collapsed. Other structures, such as the pelvis, present more difficulty. And then listen to this line. In light of what you said, too, about this terrorism that we saw, he says, a long curved Mayo scissors may be necessary to decapitate and dismember the fetus.
Unbelievable.
So, hey, we didn't write this. Did this come from the Terry and Jesse show?
Nope.
This come from Priests for Life?
Nope.
No. This is the medical textbook on abortion. And here they're using words, decapitate and dismember. When we use them, people yell at us. It's, oh, well, you know, either they say you're making it up, or they say, oh, well, it's not appropriate to use that language.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that quite a bit.
Well, then how are we going to defeat the enemy if we can't name the enemy?
Right.
How are we going to solve the problem if we can't identify the problem?
Right. Well, I say don't put your head in the sand. We have to call it for what it is. It's the innocent life being murdered. And I didn't realize, I do not have that book, but boy, sometimes I wonder if they actually, Father, believe that, yes, it's killing a baby, but who cares?
They do. They do say that. And I talked personally with a number of abortionists, and Martin Haskell being one of them. He was the one whose medical paper out of Ohio years ago, this would be the early 90s, described the partial birth of what came to be known as partial birth abortion. He was the key practitioner of it, and he was teaching others how to do it. And it was his medical paper that spurred the whole national debate on that matter, which ended up leading to a law that prohibits it on a federal level. I said to him, you know, Dr. Hearn, you know that this is a child, don't you? And here's what he said to me. Yes, I know it's a child, but to me, the question becomes, I'm not sure if the child has a soul.
What?
So I said to him, so what? If you don't know if the unborn child has a soul, how do you know if a born child has a soul? And if you're not sure that a born child has a soul, does that give you the right to kill the born child? Why does a question about the soul justify you tearing the body apart?
Yeah, great question.
And this goes back, doesn't it, to our gospel reflection earlier in the show.
Yep.
It's not just about destroying a soul. You destroy a body. That's all you need to know about whether abortion is right or wrong. You're destroying the body. Don't start getting so spiritual about it. Oh, I don't know if there's a soul or not. Because you know what, Terry? Then that can justify somebody coming up to an adult and killing them and then saying in the courtroom, oh, Your Honor, I didn't know if he had a soul. And the judge is going to say, so what? This is not a theology class. You can't kill somebody. It doesn't matter what you think about souls.
Well, maybe my analogy's bad, and just tell me it is, Father, but if you were hunting and you saw something moving in the bushes and you weren't sure it was a deer that you were trying to shoot or it was maybe someone was just back there, would you say, well, I'll just shoot and find out that it was a human being and I just killed a human being? No, you would say, I can't do that because I don't know. So I'm gonna err on being cautious and not shooting in the bushes. Now, that's right. A bad analogy.
That's a classic. Yeah, that's a classic analogy in moral theology. The practical doubt, as it's called.
Yes, practical doubt.
You know, or if you're gonna, let's say there's a demolition, the building is designated for demolition. Before those experts, implode that building, you're gonna bet they're gonna be absolutely sure there's nobody inside, right? I mean, you can't even have a margin of doubt there,
right?
And that raises the question in regard to abortion. Okay, you're not sure, even if they're not talking in terms of souls, just I'm not sure if it's a human life or not, or even the Supreme Court in Roe v. Wade, which thank God is now overturned, Amen. But. Roe v. Wade violated the principle of the practical doubt that you just illustrated, because it said, on the one hand, we don't know when human life begins. They said that explicitly. It's not in our competence to decide when a human life begins. Okay, so on the one hand, they said that, and then on the other hand, they said, oh, but you don't have to protect You don't have to protect the unborn, whatever you want to call that life inside. You don't need to protect the unborn. Well, how can you say two of those things at the same time? If you're not sure if it's a human life, then you've got to say we have to refrain from destroying it until we are sure. But they said both, we are unsure, but you can also destroy it.
Last Tuesday, we had elections and in Ohio and Kentucky, and it didn't go well for the unborn from what I could see. Not only on that, I think they even did things like legalize marijuana in Ohio. It was a lot of liberal voters voting for things that they shouldn't be voting for that are not gospel values. So tell us a little bit your take on the election and how we can make sure that in the future we get better results by our activity involved.
Well, first of all, in regard to abortion, the left is trying to create a narrative. Now, we didn't want this issue 1 to pass, and so its passage is a disaster in that sense. But it's not the narrative that the left is trying to create. They're trying to paint abortion overall as a losing issue. They're trying to say that the Republican Party is out of touch with the American mainstream when it says that abortion should be eliminated and the baby should be protected. That's a narrative we do not accept. Obviously, the vote went the wrong way, but why? It's not because the Ohio people buy into unlimited abortion, like Planned Parenthood and the Democrat Party want. How do we know it's not that? First of all, there's never been a single poll, either in Ohio or anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the history of the abortion debate, that has shown a majority of people accepting that position that we should have abortion throughout pregnancy. And yet that's what this ballot initiative opens up the door to in Ohio. But the other side lies. They pumped $35 million into Ohio.
Wow.
The pro-life side only had like 10 million. And it came from outside of the state. So first of all, there's people elsewhere that believe in this, that not the people of Ohio. And how do we know that also? Because the people of Ohio have spoken through their legislatures. They passed a heartbeat bill. Now, laws don't get passed in a state, unless you've got some kind of support among the people, because those lawmakers know that they're accountable to those voters in their district. So there's going to be some correlation there. And the people of Ohio for years, for decades, in fact, heartbeat legislation started in Ohio, where you protect the baby as soon as you can detect the heartbeat. That's pretty early on. And Ohio has spoken through its legislature. And it can speak through its legislature again if the people of Ohio were to change and want to support unlimited abortion or at least more abortion than they've allowed. Well, the legislatures are open. People can lobby their elected officials, persuade them, and have them introduce a bill. But why does the other side not want to do that? They want to preclude that process by putting in the Constitution unlimited abortion. The reason is they're afraid of the debate. It goes back to what we were saying in the last segment. When you actually read what an abortion is. See, if you have a legislative process, you're going to have hearings where this information can be brought forward. You're going to have people lobbying their legislators where they can bring them this kind of information. You're going to have to wrestle with what abortion actually is. The other side doesn't want that to happen. They just want to have this fiat, and that's what this is. It's a decree that says our Constitution prohibits the right to abortion from being in any way interfered with, and then we have this situation where they are the ones out of touch with the American people.
Father Frank, I think of stories of pro-life that touch people's souls. I was watching the Republican debate this week, and I saw Dukakis talk about what was his the Florida governor was talking about he's pro-life, and I was glad to hear that.
Yes.
And he said that many years ago there was a Jamaican woman, 45 years ago, who was going to have a baby, and she was in a poor country, and the doctors suggested that she abort the baby because she really didn't have the funds to provide for that baby. But Mama said, "No, I'm gonna have the baby," and she did. And that mom and that baby migrated to the United States and landed in Florida, he said. And she ended up getting an education and becoming an attorney, a successful attorney. And he said this that touched me. He said, and I had the privilege last September of putting her on the Supreme Court of the state of Florida as a judge. And here's my point, okay, Father? The point is, that could have been anyone else. I see, are we really going to take the life of the innocent and thinking that we know better? And how many people have died through abortion who could have been just such wonderful people in this world that could contribute to society? I'm not talking about priests or nuns. I'm just talking about your son's wife was murdered through abortion, possibly. Yeah. She never had the life. Now, I'm just going to tell one more story and then I'll turn it back to you. But I've had this many times, I should say, through the grace of God. People have come up to me, and I know they've done this to you a lot more than me. And they said, you were instrumental in saving my baby's life. And I'm like, what? I don't even know who you are. And the woman tells me, well, about 25 years ago, you used to teach catechism at St. Christopher's Church in West Covina, California. I said, yeah, that's about right. And I was taking your classes. I was 16 years old, and you talked about that if you ever got pregnant, to go visit Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament and pray and ask him to give you insight to save that baby. And that's what I did. I said, okay. And you walked into that chapel to make a visit, and I was there. And when I saw you, I took it as a sign that I should keep the baby. And I said, wow, that's amazing. I was, okay. And I thought that was the end of the story. And I'm starting to walk back because it's a women's conference. I got other things to be doing. She grabs my arm, says, wait a minute, I'm not done. I said, what? She says, I want to introduce you to my daughter. Now, the daughter's 25 years old. She comes up with her daughter and says, honey, this is the man that helped me make the decision to not abort you. And I was like, well, so this woman gives me a bear hug. She's crying. And I'll be honest, I was crying. It overwhelmed me, Father, that God could use, a guy like me to help someone choose life. But here's the point. I don't have a PhD in anything. I'm just a guy. I always say people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Well, I cared enough to tell her about the sacredness of life. And I think we need to do more of that because I believe that we can stop the killing of the unborn if we make the effort to stop it. That's my thought.
That's right. It reminds me of we were doing in New York City the Face the Truth tour. So we had a group of people standing there with the pictures that we were talking about earlier in the show of the aborted babies. And we're standing there just showing the public what abortion is.
Right.
Young African-American woman comes up to us and she's standing there staring at this poster. Yeah. And she just shakes her head and she says, I have an appointment for an abortion.
Oh no.
But is this what they're going to do to my child? I can't do this to my child. Wow. And that was right then and there. She changed her mind.
Incredible.
And we didn't even say a word. We were just showing the picture. And then of course once she said that, we directed her to the pregnancy centers that are nearby, and we were in Manhattan, so the work of our friend Chris Slattery,
he's a great
connected with them. But I mean, sometimes it's as simple as that. A very similar instance happened when Janet Morana, our executive director, and I were, we were in North Carolina, so we were standing in front of an abortion mill with one of those signs again of the aborted baby.
Yep.
So a car is driving up slowly to the driveway of the abortion mill, and they stop in their tracks right in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And both of the driver and the young woman in the passenger seat are staring with their eyes wide open at this picture.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Is that an abortion? And we said, yes, that's why we're here. This is an abortion. Oh, well, we're not, they were stumbling over their words. We're not doing that. We can't do that. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So then we said to them, we know a doctor, pro-life doctor, just 10 minutes from here.
Yes.
Can we bring you there? And he will help you get through this pregnancy.
Wow.
They actually said yes.
Oh my.
So Janet and I had the car there. So we said, follow us. Okay. So we're driving. And then I said to Janet, I said, wait a minute. we could lose them in traffic, or they can lose their nerve or get afraid, turn around. If we lose them, I said, why don't we pull over into this gas station, and Janet, you hop into their car, make sure they don't turn around. So there's Janet says, these are complete and total strangers. Right. I'm going to go into their car. And you know what? But we both said, you know what? Saving a life is worth it. So we pulled into a gas station. She gets out. She says, listen, this is not our destination, but let me ride with you just in case we lose each other in traffic. And then that's what we did. We brought them over to this pro-life physician, and he just warmly welcomed them in, and he accompanied them through the rest of their pregnancy. So it's like, what did it take to save those 2 lives? But we hardly did anything. We're just standing there with a... And the picture, you know, when you say a picture's worth 1,000 words, or the Chinese proverb, I think it's worth 10,000 words, it's literally true. And it's also worth saving a life. So those were just 2 of many, many examples of how easy it is to save a life.
And Father Frank, isn't it fair? Our good friend Joe Scheidler, who's gone to his eternal reward, he wrote a book called 99 Ways to Close an Abortion back in the 90s. And he said this, and I've experienced this: if you're present at a clinic praying, the very fact that you're there in front of the clinic bringing up the issue of abortion stops many people from killing their babies.
Mark Bombchill was a security guard up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I helped him after he came out of the abortion industry. He was working for them, and he said to us, me and the other group of pro-life activists that we were with, he said, I would help these women come into the clinic. He says, but once they were inside, a lot of them changed their mind just because you people were out there. Wow. And when they changed their mind, he said, we didn't bring them back out the front door where you people were standing. We brought them out the back door so that you wouldn't know how many of them turned around.
Wow.
That is a very instructive thing. That first of all, the pro-abortion people, they always want to hide the information about how effective our work is. You know, it's an old war saying, the battle is in the mind of the enemy. The enemy always wants you to think that you're not having the impact that you're having. And the battle's in the mind of the enemy. So for people on the pro-life side to think, oh, well, you know, I'm not sure if this saves lives. No. Be sure. There's no room for doubt. There's no need for doubt. You show up there. You just show up. There's a lot of people who have abortion appointments. They pray on the morning of their abortion. Lord, if you don't want me to do this, send somebody to tell me to stop.
I've heard that.
They literally say that.
Yes.
And if you're standing there, they know why you're standing there. They know full well why you're standing there. That's the answer to their prayers. You haven't said a single word. You're not asking. You don't have to be getting into a debate. You don't have to be, have the answer to every question. That's not what this is about. This is about the people of God.
Amen.
Showing up with the compassion of God expressed, like we said. This ties in again with our gospel at the beginning of today's program. This is the living temple of God showing up in front of that temple of Satan, if we might say so, that abortion clinic. And it's the true church confronting the false church. This is my body given up for you, confronting this is my body, I can kill the baby.
Wow. Well said. Father, we've got 10 minutes in this segment. I wanted to talk about some action items that all of us can do. We've got less than a year before all the big presidential elections coming up. What can we do to help save babies?
All right, we have to understand something real. A reality about this political situation is that right now, some people like to say, sometimes even our friends like at the March for Life and whatnot, the organizers, they'll try to say, oh yeah, well, there's Democrats involved, and sometimes they'll find a needle in a haystack. They'll find a pro-life Democrat legislator and bring them out. No. This issue should be something embraced by everybody, nonpartisan.
That's right.
But the fact is, it's not.
No.
This is something right now where the abortion industry has crystallized in the Democrat Party.
It's a fact.
The Republican Party has adopted and holds on to the pro-life position. Bottom line is, right now in America, if we are going to pass any kind of measures to protect the unborn, it's the Republicans who are going to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that we aren't disappointed in many of them too.
Of course.
But the fact of the matter is, the Republicans aren't going to solve all your pro-life problems, but the Democrats are going to cause them.
Can I interrupt you and use an analogy? And you tell me, Monsignor William Smith gave me this analogy from moral theology. Who's going to move the football towards the touchdown? Who's going to get me a first down? We want the ball moving towards pro-life. And I got to just read both policies, or I should say platforms of the Democrat Party is very clear. It's for killing unborn babies. No ambiguity. That's it. That's a fact.
It is.
The Republican platform for their pro-life. Now again, they're not perfect. Jesus Christ isn't running for office. So my position is what Monsignor taught me in moral theology, and that is that we're going to move the football towards the touchdown. And I believe the Republican Party does that over the Democratic Party. It's as simple as that.
Well, we see the evidence. I mean, the evidence is there. The record is there. It's not even a matter of opinion. It's just the fact of, these last 50 years, any kind of pro-life legislation has gotten through that way. Right. But the point is now, so preparing for this. Yes. First of all, let me give them a website, prolifevote.com. We have an initiative called Pro-Life Vote. And that is our election activity. And there's plenty of stuff that can be done in this arena that is completely nonpartisan. Mm-hmm. For example, checkyourvoterregistration.com. That's another website we've set up. So people should do right now. This is something we can do. We shouldn't think about, the election is, it's next year. The way we're going to win these elections is to start saying the election is now. We are in election season, like right now. Yeah. We begin right now. And the first thing we can begin with is my voter registration up to date? And is that of my friends and anybody that I can influence, are their voter registrations up to date? Let's make sure of that first, because we're not going to be able to win an election without votes. We're not going to be able to vote unless we're registered. So checkyourvoterregistration.com and bring it and start bringing it up. Now, many people out there are listening to us. They have social media platforms or websites or ministries, or maybe you're active in your church. Put out the message. Yeah. Like the U.S. bishops have said, and they can quote the document, Living the Gospel of Life. Voting is a responsibility. Are you registered? Very simple message. Voting is a responsibility. Are you registered? And checkyourvoterregistration.com. And something as simple as that, why don't we all start putting that out there in our different, and now some people will say, but you don't want to put it out there in a blanket way because, maybe some folks on the other side will register to vote. No, the fact of the matter is, sure, they might, but if you're putting it out among pro-life circles, if you're putting it out among circles of church-going people, the majority are going to end up voting the right way. The majority, and that's what, and that advances the ball down the court. So Terry, things like that. Our website prolifevote.com is going to have practical measures like that people can start taking right now. It's going to have updates on the state of the election. We have already daily broadcasts about election-related matters, and we'll have all sorts of informative material that can be given to voters and to the candidates. It's a whole big project. We have monthly trainings too. That's great. People might want to sign up on that website, and they would come on a Zoom call with me and with our political team every month. And then as we get closer to the elections, it'll be twice a month, and they will get, hands-on training in terms of how do we mobilize voters. We also have to begin voting early. Yes. Election day is going to be November the 5th. As you said, we're now a little bit less than a year away. That's right. But we have to change the terminology a little bit, because we've been talking about election day, and then we say, but you can vote early. What I want people to do is check the date for early voting in the general election in your state and consider that to be election day, the first day of early voting. And then consider every day after that up until and including November 5th, every one of those days is election day. That's the right mindset to have. Can I make one more suggestion that I've been trying to work on? And some of the Newman centers at the colleges, I live in Southern California, so there's many colleges with 10 million people in the county.
I can go to the Newman Center, which are college kids, give a talk on pro-life to the students. And I think this is important because they're going to be voting for a long time because most of them are like 18, 19, 20 years old. And so I want to, if you're near a college, it might not be you to give the talk, or maybe Father Frank has that resource, but you know some pro-life organization, ask if they wouldn't mind allowing a pro-life person to come and talk about the issues of the unborn to the young students. Because what I've found, Father, is when you open their eyes, the young people, they seem more motivated than us old fogies, meaning that, no, really, I noticed that. They're more like, what? We're killing unborn babies? Well, that's just not right. I said, you're right. We got to get involved. So I think that's a resource also, the colleges, to go to the colleges through the Newman Center. Usually they'll let you come in. I'm going there in about 10 days to give a talk on to Cal Poly in Pomona on the Mass. But you can count on me talking about the unborn to those 70 or 80 students that are going to be there. Now, it sounds like it's small, but it's the young that I'm trying to also reach, Father, because those people are going to be the next generation of Catholics and people that are in positions of power, and we need to reach them also.
And voter registration, is something that, there's a lot of pro-life events, like gatherings like that, pro-life talks, or pro-life events. Like there's going to be a lot of marches and whatnot that are being planned for January, right?
Yes,
for all that.
Of course.
Now, I always encourage our friends at the Walk for Life West Coast have actually done this at my request. They had a voter registration table there in the midst of that big crowd.
Yes.
Now, I'm talking to our friends at the March for Life. They haven't done this yet, but there should be a table in the midst of that crowd too at the March for Life.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, wait a second. We got pro-life people here. We got exactly the type of people that are going to vote our way. Are they registered? Many of them won't be registered.
Excellent
Let's
point.
get them registered.
And I will also say this on the prayer side, that I think prayers before the Blessed Sacrament are very effective in standing up for the culture of death, because there are graces. I've noticed that it's unexplainable how some pro-abortion people end up becoming not just Catholic like Bernard Nathanson, but we see it over and over again. How is it that these people who are so much into killing unborn babies have a conversion? And I can't explain it other than I really think it's the power of many people praying for their conversion. So I would encourage everybody to put that as a intention. And I think, Father Frank, you have a book throughout the year praying for the unborn. We got only a minute left. Can you name that book for the people?
Pro-Life Reflections for Every Day. And that's also the website.
That's the website. So check it out. Father, one more time for people to donate to Priests for Life. How can they do that?
Yes, prolifegift.org, prolifegift.org.
All right, and I want to thank you for all the years of service to the unborn. And may God bless you in your ministry, and I hope we can do it again next month. And I want to thank all of our listeners who support Virgin Most Powerful, because, yes, we're pro-life. Why? Because our Lord was pro-life. It's the gospel of life, and we need to implement that. And I think, Father, you gave us some good ways to do it. So I want to thank you again. And Father, what state should we be living in?
A state of grace.
You got it. And don't forget, Our Lady of Fatima said souls are going to hell because no one is there to pray and make sacrifices. Make those sacrifices for the unborn. Make the sacrifices for the people who are killing unborn babies, that they will open their eyes and see that that is wrong and that they have a metanoia, conversion. May God richly bless you.